What's going on, everybody? Appreciate you tuning in. It is another wild, busy week of sports going on right now in the Phoenix area. We got a little bit of Cardinals stuff to talk about. We got a lot to talk about with the Suns as, boy, they lose another. I can't even call it a heartbreaker at this point. They're kind of just falling all over themselves. And we even got a little bit of NFL Combine coming up as we're going to chat a little bit about what we can expect to see out of Cam Skattebo and what's a really big opportunity for him to try and improve his draft stock a little bit. But why don't we start with what's going on with the Suns? I guess another wildly frustrating loss as they come up short in overtime. I can't really call this a heartbreaker because we've seen this all year long. And even during that game, even with them up late in it, did anyone really feel like they were going to win that thing? Did you really feel like they were going to close it out? Were you confident about it? I wasn't even looking at them up 4 late, up 3 late, and having the ball, having opportunities to close the door. It just feels like this team has not closed the door on anybody all year. They've been letting this kind of happen, and that's how you find yourself now 3-4 games under 500 and quickly kind of disappearing from even making the play-in as Sacramento, who's sitting in that 10 spot, is playing pretty well right now. And there's a little bit of separation now, and it feels like time is running out for Phoenix. Worse because they don't really own their draft pick. So what are you even losing for at this point? You can't really tank and try and better the team. Which brings me to kind of the thing I want to talk about, which was making its rounds a little bit. Obviously, there was some talk about Kevin Durant deleting a tweet talking about how he's not really his fault if Devin Booker plays bad, and how if he does, he doesn't get any respect for it. All stemmed from the radio comments, and then he goes and deletes it. So unlike KD to delete tweets or to make noise on social media. When has he ever done something like that before? Here's the thing. One, Kevin Durant's not wrong. It's not on him whether or not Booker plays up to par or not, if he's changed his mentality. Booker is one of the most competitive dudes in the entire league. He's going to play hard. He's going to do what he's supposed to. And on those nights where he's just doesn't have it going, that happens to every player. That's not on Durant. And like to just try and create the narrative that he's taken this step back or that he hasn't done what he needs to do because Durant's there is outrageous. So on that point, I tend to agree with Durant. As far as him saying that it's time for him to completely blow up this team and saying that it's time for the Suns to just completely hit the reset button and trade Devin Booker, which 2 years ago, trading Devin Booker sounds crazy. I don't think that's should be off the table right now. In fact, I might even start entertaining it for a couple of reasons. One, they're not going to be any better next year. There's a really good chance. In fact, there's a better chance that Kevin Durant isn't on the team after this season than it is that he'll be back with the team. And you're not getting a star player back with him. So unless you're telling me that you think a team of Devin Booker and Bradley Beal surrounded by some role players, which is what you're going to get back in a KD trade from somebody, and some future draft picks, if that makes you competitive, because I don't think that puts you anywhere near competitive in the West. That probably, you maybe honestly do a little bit of a jump because Bradley Beal can take on a little bit more responsibility and you fill in some holes around there. But you're still, what, a play-in team, maybe somewhere around there? Is that enough? No. And so you're basically wasting another year of Devin Booker next season on that rate for nothing. And you're still not going to be able to trade Beal until maybe at the trade deadline next year if someone's wanting to just bring him on as knowing he's an expiring contract. So here's the thing, and conventional wisdom would say, all right, well, then that means we have the rest of this season and next season. And then at that point, maybe Beal's off the books. We've got the pieces from Durant. We can start building at that point. Are you waiting another 2 years to try and start a rebuild around Booker at that point? He's up for an extension that is going to put him at around $70 million a year. So you're going to be pretty salary cap hamstrung there as well. I don't think you can move forward with that as your plan. I think you trade Booker this offseason if you can, because the risk that you run is twofold. One, you do this whole rebuild, and if you keep Booker and you think you're building around him, he's going to be older than everyone else, and the timeline just doesn't work out. Or two, which is infinitely worse, you hold on to Booker and he gets sick of sitting around a franchise that is really struggling, and then he demands his way out and says where he wants to go. That gets infinitely worse because of you lose all of your leverage in any kind of trade talks when he says he wants to go there. And then all of a sudden your return on investment is awful. You're going to get nothing in return of value for him versus if you were to move him on your own accord, you can actually get some value if you pick where you're going to send him. If they hold on to him and then he forces a way out, which so many players have done in this league, they're going to find themselves at a negotiating table with almost no leverage, nothing underneath them to try and control those trade talks. And you are going to be in a situation where what you get back is not nearly what you need to be competitive. So if they move him now, they're going to get a lot more versus if they wait and he gets disgruntled and he decides to try and force his way out. Not saying he's going to do that. He seems content right now with Phoenix with everything, but it just feels like every week we go by, there's another little sprinkle of something going on that's wrong with the team, a little disgruntlement here, a little problem there, and that weighs on you. And eventually he's going to look around after this offseason and say, hey, we just finished 11th in the West. Durant is now leaving. We still got Bill's contract on the books. This team isn't doing nothing right now, and I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. That's pretty close to a star demanding. I mean, that's the recipe for a star saying he wants his way out. The Suns season feels like it's hot garbage right now. It feels like this is a throwaway. The benefit for them right now is they have trade assets, but that's a tough pill to swallow. I mean, he's the all-time leading scorer for the Suns, and I think the best thing for the franchise right now is to move on. To move on him, you already know that you're going to not be able to bring back Durant. You're going to be moving off of him. So you move both those pieces. You get as many young guys that look like they have a chance at being stars. You get as many draft picks as possible because the Suns almost don't have any right now. Get some youth in the building. Hit the entire restart button, which is awful. It's not what fans wanted when you got this big three. And it's better to make the move early than late and admit you made a mistake. And it's better to hit the restart early than it is late. The teams that continue to fight along and just ignore the signs normally end up regretting it in the long run. So, boy, it's not working. And I think this is the one way out. And it doesn't feel great, but sometimes you got to rip off the Band-Aid. And this feels like one of those times right now in the NBA, which is tough for fans. But I think it's the right move. I think if you want to have any kind of future, because if you don't, you're not only going to be probably worse the next 2 years, you're not going to have a future after that. You're going to have to wait until, again, you get more and more draft capital back. And if you look at how many draft picks they got over the next 6 years, it's not much. There's not much in the treasure chest right now. Let's talk a little bit about football, shall we? Well, the draft combine is going on this week, and I am fascinated to see what happens with Cam Skattebo. Now, right now, if you look at different draft boards, he is one of the most variance for players as I've seen in a long while. Pro Football Focus has him as the third ranked running back on their board. They have him as the 50th prospect, which would put him right about late second round, somewhere around there. CBS Sports has him as the 15th running back, 1-5. They have 14 running backs in this draft that are ahead of him, and they have him going anywhere from the 3rd round to undrafted. Cam Skattebo undrafted after what he did in the Peach Bowl, after the run that he had this year. They think there's a chance that nobody picks him. The thing is, they're not the only one that has that range for him too, which is wild that a guy could be somewhere between 2nd round and undrafted. There are 200 picks, something like that, between those rounds, and they're saying that, I don't know, he's somewhere in between there. And that is the beautiful conundrum that is Cam Skattebo. And that's what everyone started saying after he had that incredible game there, where it's like, you look at him and he does so much, and you got to find a way to put him on the field, but you're not sure where you're going to play him. But you're like, that guy's just a football player, and I got to find a way to get him out there. But I don't know what to do with him, but I got to find something to do with him. He's so good at so many different things, and I think he was one of the funnest guys in all of college football to watch play. He makes guys miss, and his size could still get downhill. But there's so much question still about him. He's a little bit older than a lot of prospects coming out after he spent so many years in college. He's 23 right now. That's a little bit on the older side, even for running backs, which is a position where you don't really see guys make a lot of second contracts, or certainly not a third anymore. So here's the thing. He's going to get a chance. He did wonders for himself in that game against Texas, and I think that skyrocketed him up a lot of people's draft boards and certainly put him on the national radar. Problem is, kind of feels like that game was forever and a day ago, right? Like, I mean, when that was certainly the best game of the playoffs, but it feels like it has been a while since that game happened, and it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. Ohio State's running back had some good moments. There's a few other guys that really kind of caught people's attention, and other than that, things kind of just kept going on in the sports world, and people kind of forgot and moved on a little bit. This is another opportunity for him to put something on tape, to put himself in front of some cameras and to catch people's attention and to really improve his draft stock. And I mean, it's kind of cliche, but for every running back, it comes down to this. What is his 40 time going to be? That is going to be massive, specifically for him. Now, if you look at Ashton Gentry's going to be fine. Like, that guy is explosive, fast. Everyone knows what you're getting with him. There's certain running backs where their size and their speed shows. The knock on Cam is that he's not that explosive, is that he's not that fast, that he just kind of makes people miss. He can break tackles, and then he gets downhill. So if he can go out there and put up a good 40 time, it is going to do wonders for him. I think that will really solidify him as a late 2nd round draft pick, maybe even a mid 2nd round draft pick, depending on how well he does in this combine, because he's going to be able to show that he can pass catch. He's going to be able to show that he can pass block, that he can do a lot of things, and he can be that kind of versatile back that is what made him an absolute star for Arizona State. But the speed is going to be what everyone is going to be paying attention to. And if he puts a bad 40 time, you're going to see him drop bad on a lot of draft boards. But if he can go out there and put up something good, he's going to have a chance and maybe be one of those guys that somehow works his way into being a late 1st round draft pick. He could do that. He could definitely be a 1st round draft pick. Now, right now, his 40 time was listed at a 4.6. That's not great. It's not horrendous, but that's not great. And it may not seem like much, but if he can get a 4.5, or I don't know if he can get to it, but if he can do a 4.4 somehow, get a 4.5 seems reasonable. If he can get to a 4.5, you're talking about an entire round in the NFL draft where he'll probably move up on a lot of people's boards. If he can show he can have a little bit of burst, a little bit of speed, it is going to do a lot for him for the opportunity of just moving up on people's draft boards and getting into a position where, honestly, I think he deserves to be, because I think he is in that 2nd to 3rd best running back in this draft. And I just think he needs to have one more couple opportunities to really showcase that. And this is one of those opportunities. So he needs to go out there and put up a very good number on that. The rest of the stuff I think is going to take care of itself. His bench press, his pass catching, he's going to show he's versatile. It's just can he show that he's got some explosion to him as well? That's what everybody is going to be paying attention to, including the Cardinals, which is one of the teams we're going to talk about now, finally. The yearly report cards came out, which is the player report cards. They rank everybody in the league on a number of different things as far as the team when it comes to kind of nutrition, locker room, things that they give you, kind of the atmosphere. The players grade it out, and then there's about 10 different categories, and they do that for every single team in the league. There's 32 teams in the league. Care to guess where the Cardinals were ranked overall? 32nd. They were ranked dead last in the entire NFL for overall. Not great. I want to go through this report card right here. So, treatment of families, they were given a D+, 29th overall in the league. Food and dining area, they were given a D-, 30th in the league. Nutrition, they were given a B. Not bad. They were ranked 12th in the league. That's pretty solid. That's pretty good. Locker room, F-, 32nd in the league. You want a little more detail on that one? 50% of the players say that they feel they don't have enough space in their individual locker rooms, and 24% of the players believe the overall locker room size is inadequate. That ain't great. Training room, D-. Training staff, you get a C, though. Weight room, F. Strength coach, C+. Team travel, B. The only A on this entire list, head coach, gets an A. The 8th best voted head coach in the entire league by the players, which is, I mean, that's great for Jonathan Gannon. That's what you would hope for. But if that is the only thing you got going for you right now, it's an important piece, but there's a lot else when you want to talk about trying to get free agents, when you want to try and build the team a little bit. And ownership, D-, 30th in the league out of 32. Just an abysmal ranking across the board on all of that. And like I just kind of alluded to, where that comes to haunt you is this is what the players think about your franchise. This is what the players think about the inner workings of everything that's going on in there. Well, when you're trying to recruit free agents, when you're trying to sign guys, those things matter. And so this is the reputation that the Cardinals have across the league of being the worst franchise in the entire league. By the way, the Jets are still in this league, and they're somehow ahead of them. That's tough. That's not great. I mean, if you listen to most of those things, it sounds like facilities aren't great, and then just the everyday kind of expenses that normally a club picks up to try and make the environment better, not great either. Doesn't sound like necessarily the people inside of the building, outside of the owner, oh, by the way, he's the guy that normally picks up a lot of those bills, aren't great. Tough. Not a good look. Not a good look when you're going into an offseason where you're going to need to make a lot of free agent moves, where there are an insane amount of questions around this team on whether or not they're going to try and move forward with the core that they have and build around this right now and just kind of add pieces to the roster, or if it's time to blow it up. And I mean, they have a lot of tough questions. They're going to have to take a long look in the mirror to figure out what they are going to do this offseason. And that's going to start with this draft. That's going to start with who you look at as far as who you're trying to bring into the building in free agency. And this isn't what you need. This is kind of bad press that you do not need when you're in this spot right now that Arizona is. So they have a lot of questions. We'll see what their answers that they come up to this test is, because they need to kind of change that narrative. They need to be seen as a desirable place for free agents to go. And they don't have that right now. So we'll see what happens there. But all right. So let's keep our eyes peeled on the combine. I can't wait to see what Skattebo does over there. And also, if you're in the mind frame, you might as well keep your eyes open also on pretty much everybody on the D line and the O line. Figures to be where the Cardinals are going to be going with their draft picks, especially early on. So we'll get a little bit of insight there, but a lot of questions this week, a lot of things to keep monitoring, and hopefully maybe the next time we chat, we can have something good to say about the Suns, because it's been a while for that as well. But until then, appreciate everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.